Hello, and welcome to Finding a Solution. Now that we have our requirements and we kind of understand exactly what it is that our customer wants, I shouldn't say kind of, we understand exactly what our customer wants. The goal now is to find potential solutions to meet those needs. And that's what this video is all about, the steps in finding those solutions and how we would go about doing those. We'll also talk about justifying the solution tangibly. No matter what, we're talking about money here, and everything to a business is all about money. And so a company wants to understand what I'm purchasing, how much it's going to cost, and how it's going to pay for itself. Any business out there wants anything they buy must be a good investment. That comes from down to paper and pens for the company. It must be a good investment. And finally, we're going to talk about what the deliverable is of this whole analysis phase that made up these last two videos. All right, let's get started. The steps of finding a solution. First of all, we need to understand all of the possible solutions that are out there. Really, they fall under three different categories when it comes to solutions, software solutions for our customers based upon their requirements. The first is custom development. Of course, that means we as programmers sit down, understand the requirements, design our solutions, and actually code them from very beginning all the way to the end. We code every line of code all the way through. The second is purchasing a software package, meaning, as you probably well know, there's tons of companies out there that develop software. They develop software called vertical software that basically can meet a lot of companies' needs, especially software that is out there that will, how can I say, does the same that every company sort of needs. All right, like accounting software would be vertical software, business operations, so on. ERP software would be that kind of stuff. We kind of talked about that before. All right, there's companies out there to develop these things and basically resell it over and over again. Finally, there's a combination of the two, where you buy a software package that allows you to customize it to what your needs are for that particular situation and for that particular company. Regardless of what we do, we got to do what's best for our customer. That's all we're looking for. Whatever is best for our customer is what we should propose to them. Why do I state that? I state that for one major reason. I usually get students at this point in time saying, why are we purchasing software? I thought everything we're doing is software development. Well, that's just part of it, okay? We want to do what's best for our customer. And let me tell you, though, there is so much work out there when it comes to software development and custom software that we don't have to be worrying about if purchasing software is the right answer or not. In some cases, that's actually a great thing for us because we don't have to take the risk and redevelop something that's already been there. Why don't we just go buy it and then go from there, and customize or whatever it's worth. Trust me, you'll always have enough work to do. That's never going to be a problem in this field. Okay? Let's look at each one of these a little bit and discuss the pros and cons of each. When it comes to custom development, meaning we write the software, if we get the requirements and we're going to write the software piece by piece, obviously we're going to do so to ensure that we can meet all the requirements that are there. The other thing we'll make sure of is that, as I stated before, one of the things we want to do is complement their business processes, right? We want to write software that does exactly how they do their work today manually. That's our goal. So we don't have to change what they do. People hate that kind of change. We want to minimize that as much as possible. If we develop it, we minimize that change. However, when it comes to custom software, this is something that hasn't been done before. Usually it's going to come at a higher cost, especially as compared to package software, which we'll talk about here in a second. And there's a lower probability of success. Why? Because we're starting at the beginning. There's a lot of unknowns that come into effect when we're developing software based upon the complexity of what the software is we're developing. Doing this is not easy. There's no doubt about it. The system development lifecycle hopefully helps us do it well and do it right the first time, but regardless, it's still not an easy chore to get it from the idea all the way to implementation. So, and if we write custom software to do so, this choice right here, no doubt, lowers the probability of that success. I'm not saying it eliminates it, I'm saying it lowers it. I'm not even going to say how much it lowers it. Maybe by 10, 20% over a package piece of software. but really it's based upon the complexity of what it is we're trying to do. Does that make sense? Software packages. Usually software packages have a lower cost to them. Usually, their development of software package could be, say, $1 million. And what they'll do is they'll sell it to a company for $200,000. Why? After they sell 5 packages, they meet their expenses. And anything after that will be pure profit to that company, that software company. So they can sell it cheaper. In regards to custom, we can't sell it cheaper. It is what it is based upon the price, based upon our hourly rate of development. We still need to eat and so on. You got it? So we're going to write it one time. So with that said, it's going to be a one-time cost. It could be $1 million. Usually it takes less time to implement, meaning it's already written. All we got to do is install it and go. You've done that 1 million times with software even needed for these courses at Cincinnati State. Usually it's proven. Hopefully, if we did our research, we're going out and researching companies that already purchased this software. And with that said, we were going to check to make sure it works and it works well and the companies are happy with it before we ever recommend it to our customer. The cons. It may not meet all the requirements. So in this case, they wrote a piece of software. It's a general piece of software based upon them probably going out and talking to a lot of people, but it may not meet the specific requirements exactly what our customer wants. And that could be a real problem, a major problem, because we don't want to change their processes. So I've seen software out there, once purchased, requires the company to do their work differently. Sometimes that's okay, but most of the time it's not. People don't like change, and we want to write software that complements exactly what they do versus the alternative here. So may not meet the requirements is a biggie. It's a huge thing. The combination of the two. So if we sat back and we bought a piece of software, then we can actually then customize it ourselves or customize certain pieces of it. That might be the answer to everything, right? Where we have the lower cost, we have the less time to implement, we have the proven reliability, and hopefully it meets more of the requirements, as we customize it. May not meet them all, but maybe most of them. Is there any issues with the combination of the two? Sometimes one big issue could be is that we're still at the mercy of the third-party software company. If they decide to have a whole other version, maybe my customization that I did to it doesn't work anymore with the new version. That could be a real problem. From a software package, the same thing. We're dealing with a third-party piece of software from another company. What if that company goes out of business? Is that an issue? It should be. A lot of my consulting work, when I start looking this up and I start going through the companies and potential solutions, I get their financials and make sure how long they've been around, who's their customers, how well they're doing, and so on. I would very rarely recommend a package for a brand new company that hasn't been around, that has nothing, no history to it, that I can really base my recommendation on. Does that make sense? All right. So a lot of things. All right. Which one to pick? That's the beautiful thing here. That really you don't pick. You make a recommendation. You make a recommendation that you feel is best for your customer based upon your research, your experience, and so on. However, the goal here is to present all these solutions to your customer, make a recommendation, then you together come up with the final, the final plan moving forward, be it custom, a package, or a combination of both. Does that make sense? Sometimes they like your recommendation. Sometimes they'll agree with your recommendation, but that's just your recommendation. Your job is to provide them with multiple solutions, okay? The solutions that they can pick from. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And with that, make your recommendations, but let them in the end choose it. Make sense? When we're talking about a solution, we want to make sure that we justify the solution tangibly. As I mentioned before, businesses are not in businesses just to waste money. They don't have time to do that. Every dollar they spend is usually for a purpose. Even if it's giving it away to a charity, it's for a purpose. They feel that they wouldn't give money to a charity if it didn't benefit them in some way. Don't mistake that ever. The same thing holds true when you're buying software or you're purchasing software or you're hiring people to write you software. Regardless of what you're doing, it must be a good investment, meaning the cost of developing or purchasing the solution will be offset within a reasonable amount of time by the savings or increased revenue its solution can provide. Reasonable amount of time, and that's subjective for every company. It might be a year, it might be 3 years, it might be 4 years. If I put my, if I put $1 into the bank, and when will it double? It's usually right now with low interest rates, it could take 20 years to double. So if I sat back and actually purchased software, and I'm able to justify that in a couple years, meaning the benefits outweigh the cost within a couple years, that would be a big thing. And that would be like a 50% return on my investment. You're not going to get that much anywhere else. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. I kind of brought up. So here's year one. Let's just say we actually did some custom software, and the cost of writing this software for our customer ended up being $50,000. All right. Let's just say we got paid. It took us 1,000 hours to develop this piece of software. We got paid $50 an hour, so it came to $50,000. The accumulated cost of this software then is $50,000 the first year. It's actually the actual cost of the software. Let's just pretend for an instance that the savings, or the benefits I should say, of purchasing this software saved them the need to hire a person. And to the cost of hiring this person and its salary and so on for this person was $20,000. All right. So $20,000 was the savings because they didn't have to do this because they bought our software, which eliminated the need to hire somebody else to do maybe some type of mundane task. So the accumulated savings for this is $20,000. Year two. Usually when it comes to software, you got to constantly be maintaining the software or enhancing the software. Industry standards state that usually is about 20% of the original cost of software is what you should budget for such a thing. So in this case, we'll put down $10,000. That means our accumulated cost of the software after 2 years is $60,000. We're going to save that same $20,000 because we didn't hire that person in year one. And so now our accumulated savings is $40,000. That makes sense? Let's keep going. 10,000 to 70. Now we're up to 60. As you see in year four, we've now accumulated $80,000 of software costs. And with that, our total savings now is $80,000 accumulated. Does this make sense? So that's our break even. We finally broke even in year four. It took 4 years in this particular situation, to justify the cost of that software. After which, now my savings or benefits exceeds my actual accumulated cost, as you can see. So now after year 5 and year 6, not only have I paid for the software, I've also now starting to make money because I paid for the software. So in this case here, in year 5, I made $10,000, and in year 6, I made $20,000. And as you see, if we continue on, that will accumulate more. Year 7 would be 140 to 110, and it just keeps going. That's usually how software works. Does it usually take 4 years to break even? In some cases, it's all based upon the actual situation and so on. I can tell you, I got done working on a project in which I actually charged my customer $150,000 to develop the software. Their savings the first year alone was $500,000. First year alone. So they justified the cost of this software somewhere around 3 months. That, my friend, is a good investment. I should have charged more. Don't you agree? All right. Obviously, there's justification money-wise, but there's also justification intangible-wise. If you go back to the planning stage, one of the things you're supposed to do is kind of look at some of the intangibles that could actually happen. Happier employees, happier customers, more informed customers, etc. I can't help but looking at each one of these intangibles and realize that if my employees are happier and they're doing more work, usually I'm increasing my revenues just because of that. If my customers are happier and they're coming back and seeing me all the time, or the next time versus going to my competitors, that has to increase my revenue. And same thing with informed customers. In a day of age where everybody wants information now, the more I can inform them about their orders, their bank account, their whatever, my customers are happy. They're going to stay with me. These are intangibles, yet these also can equate to very easily tangibles, meaning how much money am I saving if I don't have to keep rehiring employees over and over again. If I was constantly had a $20,000 employee who was doing a mundane task and they were constantly leaving every 6 months to a year, the cost of hiring another employee is not cheap. But if I'm able to keep people and make their jobs better and they stay longer, that's actually a tangible increase in pay or increase against my investment. Does that make sense? There's a lot of things that go into this and a lot of things that you should learn how to do and tell these to your customers. Okay, the final piece of this analysis phase is now putting this all together. We usually do this in what's called a requirements document, okay? Usually this document summarizes the requirements together, meaning all the requirements that we gather, we kind of summarize in some type of Word format, all right? Very easily though, most customers don't want to see all those words written down. So usually what we do is we show them the models that we created, or that illustrated our understanding. And hopefully these are the models not only that showed our understanding, but our customer actually agreed to. Usually the requirements document has several potential solutions that are completely thought out in regards to how they meet the requirements, the investment, and the return on investment, what we just talked about in this video. When I say several, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe one custom and 3 packaged and maybe 1 combination type of thing. And hopefully then, and that usually goes into great detail on how they meet the requirements, the investment, and the return on investment, like I said before. We want to go into deep detail on that. We want to answer all the questions so a proper decision can be made on which way we move forward. We usually make our final recommendation that's based upon our experience. Usually our customers want our recommendation. But in the end, our recommendation is just that. It's a recommendation. It is not the final choice. The final choice comes from you and your customer, usually at a meeting that presented this document, okay? Usually you hand them the document, and then you have some type of PowerPoint presentation that summarizes it that you can walk through. How big can this document get? I've seen some with thousands of pages. Most, though, when I did a lot of my consulting, were somewhere around 20 pages, and all based upon the complexity and the scope of the project that we're working on. Regardless, we just need to be complete. We can't do it halfway. You must be complete and really thoroughly think this thing through, this analysis phase through, to ensure that we can do the best we can in being successful for our customers. All right, I cannot stress enough, and hopefully you now understand the importance of the analysis phase. There's one more thing I want to talk about. I keep saying these words: clients, customers, users, and so on. To me, they're all the same. Once again, I want to make sure you understand that IT as a profession is a service, just like being a doctor or a lawyer or something. We're a service. We provide a service to people. We provide technical solutions to help businesses do their jobs better and more efficiently, to hopefully increase revenues and decrease costs. That's our job. We do it well. We usually make pretty good money doing it. Why? Just like I said before, when we look at something like this, if I'm saving somebody $350,000 the first year with the ability to grow with it, that's something that people want around. And that's why software developers are such a huge need right now in the industry. Okay? So a customer is just that, the person we're doing this for. Make sure you don't forget that. Okay? And again, if I use the word client, customer, or user, for the most part, it's the same thing. The user is a little bit different than a customer, where the user is the actual person using the system. A customer could be the management of a company, but the users are the people actually using it. So just make sure you understand that. Anyway, as we finish this thing up, once we determine a solution and its cost, meaning once we work with our customer to finalize a solution and we finalize the cost of it, the next phases are design and development. And we'll get into those in the coming weeks.